Hey kids, welcome to Facts, Opinions, and Real Talk. I'm your host, Heather Honey. I hope everyone had a wonderful 4th of July. I know I did. I've been resting, especially after the Karen Reed trial. Ooh, I cannot imagine how her and her team feel because I know I was exhausted, mentally and physically exhausted. And so it was nice to take a break and just kind of chill and think about some other projects that I wanted to work on. And so I want you guys to know something, that even though Karen Reed has been freed, we still have work to do. And that's my mantra. We still have work to do. We've got to get justice for John O'Keefe. I love that some things that weren't allowed into court are being shared on the internet. There is video of Alan Jackson going into the garage at 34 Fairview where the new owners allowed the team to come and check out things. You can, there's a video of where you're looking through what would have been the Albert's bedroom window, and Alan Jackson is on the lawn, and he's talking and whistling. You can hear it. So I'm very excited that some of that is coming out for the public to see, because some of it I had heard about maybe last year before. I don't know. I've been following for 2 years, but it was like one of those, is this true? Is it a rumor? Is it, a local legend? I don't know. But there's some other things that I haven't verified, so I'm not going to go any further, but there are some other things that, if they're true, I'm so excited. So be sure to remember John O'Keefe. Now that Karen is freed, it's time to get justice for John and find out who truly had something to do with his suspicious death. We've got Sandra Birchmore, that, as some of you know, that she was in, I think it was called the pilot. Was it the pilot program? Anyways, it was where like young children could come and be like, kind of like shadow the police officers. It was a program. And Sandra Birchmore got pregnant, and then later she died. And they said that it was by, that she did it to herself. I'm trying to think of words because YouTube's weird, and I'm trying to be a better content creator. So they said she did it herself, and come to find out, they took another look, and she didn't, which everybody already knew that. And so Matthew Farwell was arrested for the murder, allegedly. And so we've got Sandra Birchmore that we've got to make sure that she gets justice. Also, just en route, he was pretty much executed by the police in Massachusetts. And so he's on our list of, we've got to get things cleaned up, and we've got to get justice for these people and their families. And then I'm not going to forget about Enrique Delgado Garcia. He was a recruit. I don't know. He was just about to graduate from the Massachusetts State Police. And unfortunately, during some kind of exercise, he died. And so that's being investigated. And there's just a lot of stuff going on in Massachusetts. And so you're like, as you can tell, I'm not from Massachusetts. I'm from Alabama. And why is this important to me? Why, what do I care about what's going on in Massachusetts? Because what's going on in Massachusetts can eventually affect the rest of the United States. And if that continues to go on, then other states that have corrupt law enforcement and politicians are going to say, hey, well, that happened in Massachusetts. We can do it here. In fact, it's already going on. I know it's here in Alabama, and it's everywhere. If you live in a small town, you know how it is. And so it just needs to stop, and we need to get the corrupt out and clean it up. And this isn't like a political thing to me. This is like taking care of the citizens of the United States in whatever state you live in. And I don't want to hear anything about the federal government and Trump and all that crap. I don't want to hear it, because to get to that level, we have to clean up locally, because these people that are, your local government officials and law enforcement, they are the ones that are moving up to other positions, higher level positions. And if you don't make sure that you check out who you're voting for and know their background, and ask questions, don't be shy. Call them up and say, hey, I want to hear. Or if you've got a local content creator, ask them to invite the candidates on your show. But anyway, so my point is, and I'm sorry I went off, but ADD, can't help it. But anyways, so my point is, I'm also learning from Massachusetts, because there's a lot of stuff that was going on, and it was live on TV, and the people that were doing these horrific things didn't even care. They were like, because why? They always got away with it. Always got away. Let me make a phone call right quick. I can get this taken care of. And that's exactly what they think. And that's how it works in small towns. I'll just call so and so. They'll get me out of this, or something to that effect. And it's going to stop. It needs to stop. So, but anyways, so as I'm learning from what's going on in Massachusetts, I'm learning more about the law, the criminal justice system, and our constitutional rights. And I know that's such an interesting topic of discussion, but I hate that I've waited so late in life to realize how important this is. And I'm also mad because in school, you're taught, like, we'd have to memorize, the preamble to the Constitution, what are the Bill of Rights and all this stuff, but it was never applied to real life. You just had to memorize some words. There was no meaning behind them. Well, I'm here to tell you that those words are very, very strong and powerful. And if we don't understand what they are, understand our rights, then these people that have been getting away with stuff for a long time are just going to keep on keeping on. And it's going to stop. So, in both of Karen Reed's trials, Judge Beverly Cannoni approved a buffer zone order, which aimed to maintain distance from the courthouse entrance, a buffer. So the buffer zone was created to give Karen Reed a free trial. Yeah, right. That's not what it was intended. But anyways, so that no outside groups would taint the jury. Okay, well, I went down there, and the jury came in on like a charter bus. It was very nice. Did we see them come in and out? No, because they were on the back side of the courthouse. I never saw them. And so, I mean, It's so ridiculous that I'm even doing a live about this, but it happened. But anyway, so you couldn't even see the jurors from the front of the courthouse. And if you were talking like this, they wouldn't have heard you. Anyways, okay, so it was to prevent being the jury being tainted, and also to prevent witness intimidation. And let me tell you something about witness intimidation. Okay, so an example that I've seen, and yeah, I'll go with TV because I haven't been, I don't have any examples, but just the fact that witness intimidation usually means, oh, if you testify, or whatever, they'll blackmail people, whatever. So in Massachusetts, another um, rule about witness intimidation is emotional harm. And that is something that Aiden Carney, aka Dr. Turtleboy, the investigative reporter who brought the Karen Reed case to light, and that I learned a lot from, has so many charges, and we'll dive into that another time. But um, yeah, so in other words, people can say, "I'm so scared, he's going to get me." Witness intimidation charge. It's felony. And also, it could include family members of a witness. Um, Anyways, it's ridiculous because people are using that part of the law inappropriately, to keep people to shut up, like Turtle Boy, to keep him from reporting the truth. To be because if they were because it also included a restraining order, and the best I can remember. And so if they're at court getting ready to testify, he couldn't be there to report what was going on in court. So yeah, that was pretty shady and crappy on their part. But that's just some of the stuff they'd pull. There's emails, there's phone calls, and I mean, they didn't do it through the process and got an attorney and then had the attorney to do this and do that. No, they would like call up DA Morrissey and say, tell him to leave us alone. Tell tell him to quit blogging about me. And it was just ridiculous. But anyways, so they finally went to court, and anyways, they're still not finished. But again, I'm getting off track, and I'll save that for another time. So back to this. So what about the people who are peacefully or were peacefully protesting outside the courthouse? What about the press? So let's look first. I want you to see the buffer zone because area from a map. It is really, really ridiculous. Okay, hold on just a second. Let me get that pulled up. I love technology. That's not right. Oh, and here's another lovely thing about technology. I had all this prepared and something happened and it all disappeared. So, all my things I had pre-done, you guessed it, um, they're gone. Okay, let me come on. Okay. Okay. So, I'm going to show you the area of the buffer zone. Okay, so that right there is where the courthouse is, where you see that I have in purple. Now I'm drawing because the um, buffer zone was, of course, around the complex of the courthouse. I hope you guys can see this. Okay. So then, of course, it's going to go 200 feet and down the front, which is High Street. And let's see here, we covered Pearl Street, the backside of the courthouse, which is Norfolk Street. And then it's going down Bullard Street and across Bates Court, and Court Street meets there. Then across from the courthouse is the Norfolk Registry of Deeds. And so let's see if we finish this. Okay. So now the line is showing Ames Street. That was added. And then all that behind that you see that I'm highlighting, or I have the purple, that is the parking for behind the Registry of Deeds. Well, guess where? Oh, excuse me. Let me go ahead and let that finish. So all that in purple is within the buffer zone. So looking at that, you can see all that. Now that doesn't really look like it's a lot, but let me tell you, I'll show you at a different scale how much it is. But all of this was in the motion that the Commonwealth requested for the buffer zone. So that meant if you were wearing free Karen Reed free Karen Reed t-shirt or free Turtle Boy or Justice for John O'Keefe, you could not have that showing where all that purple is. Anywhere in that purple, you could not be. You had to cover up, either put on a hoodie, some kind of jacket, cover it up, put another shirt on top of it, whatever you had to do. But while you were in there. And what was great, and I'm being sarcastic, is right there at the Norfolk Registry of Deeds, that's where the bathroom was that we were allowed to use. So you had to cover up to go to the bathroom. Anyways, it was ridiculous. Okay, let me get out of this. Okay. All right. Now I want to show you closer what it was like because, oh my goodness. Okay. So let's see. Share screen. Okay. So now we are looking at. Okay. Let me see what's going on here. I'm trying to see why you can't see me. Let me try to fix something. Hold tight. Hmm. There we go. That should fix that part, hopefully. Yes, there we go. Sorry. Okay, so let me get this to a bigger screen so I can see. Okay, so here we are looking at on Google Maps, and the gold part is the top of the Norfolk County Superior Courthouse. So for us, like I said, on High Street right there, I wished, I don't think you can see my pointer. But anyways, so we were right here. And what we'd do is we'd meet early in the morning before court would start and we'd get our pictures made. And so that was fun. And you didn't have to be covered because it was before court had started. So then I'm sorry, love technology. Okay, so then we okay, so after we were getting our picture made, we went down High Street. And keep in mind, all of this, we had to keep our, once 8 o'clock hit, you had to be covered up. because that's when the courthouse opened or started or court started, whatever. Okay, so all this right here, we had to keep our shirts hidden. And so then when we would get, this is ridiculous. Did it go down this far? I think so. Yes, because there's the house. So right in here where these trees are, we stood on the sidewalk and we waited for Karen Reed and her team to drive by and wave to show that we were there to support them. So then after we stood there and waited and we waved and cheered, then we walked back down this way. And I believe it was once we crossed the sidewalk here, crossed Bullard Street. Yes. Before you cross Bullard Street, you had to be covered up. And I'm already sweating because, well, I'm doing a lot of walking and talking and I'm excited. I'm burning up, but I had to keep that jacket zipped up. So then we walked and we walked. It felt like forever. And so now we're back to the front of the courthouse. Well, this is not where, we can't hang out here. So we went to, and there was really not a good place for people to gather down that way. So we all gathered. So we walked this way down High Street. And let's see here. That is, okay. Oh, I didn't know that was the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. I would have made a visit. Okay, so here's the registry of deeds where I said we could go to the bathroom. And so we're down here over a block away. Here's that King's Court. So about right in here, they had the signs up, buffer zone. So there was a garbage can. I think it was right there. It was somewhere weird. And I had got some coffee and I was going to go throw my cup away. And sure enough, I had to zip that jacket up and walk like 10 steps and throw it away and then walk back. But we were over here, kind of in front of the dance studio, but we were on the sidewalk, even though the dance studio had complained. And I'm very disappointed because I'm a dancer and I'm disappointed that dance studio was that way. But needless to say, we were all polite. We were not wild. We weren't tearing up everything. We weren't burning cars. We weren't doing anything but just sitting there. In fact, let me show you exactly what we were doing. Well, it'll take a second because all my stuff got erased. Okay. Uh, hmm. No, that's not it. Hmm. Nope, that's not it either. Come on. Y'all bear with me. Okay. This is quite hilarious. Just sit back and talk amongst yourselves as I find my video. Never fails. Okay. I'll just go ahead and show you this video and let you see it. Yeah. It'll show you what we did.
I don't really care.
Oh, and that's not the right one either. So this is fantastic. Okay. I'm being sarcastic. You know, that's just the way it is. That's the way Heather Honey's lives go. And these people that can just, y'all are amazing. Hmm. That's not it. I, sometimes I just want to give up and I'm like, no, everybody's got to start somewhere. It's just, y'all don't know how much this just really irks me because I had everything. And when I said everything, I mean everything. And then I get back and it's all gone. Okay. Let's hold off on the video and let's just go ahead and go over the orders. Okay. Let's do that and then we'll pull up the fun videos because this is the boring part, anyways. Okay. So before the trial, the Commonwealth um, filed a motion for the buffer zone and order prohibiting signs or clothing in favor of either party or law enforcement. And so basically, they wanted to have the same order that was from the first trial. And there was a few stipulations, but on the second page, so it talks about the background. On March 26, 2024, the Commonwealth moved for an order barring demonstrations within a buffer zone of 500 feet around the courthouse complex and prohibiting certain items from being worn or displayed inside the courthouse during the defendant's first trial. A group of individuals moved to intervene in the case to oppose the Commonwealth's request. Okay, and so blah, blah, blah. And the defendant took no position on the matter. And so, like, when it came to the Turtle Boy stuff and, the Free Karen Reed folks, she was doing her thing and we did our thing. And so it was kind of like three different moving parts for one thing or one cause. Okay. So, first of all, the court said, okay, the 500 feet was, ridiculous. So, they decided to do the 200 feet instead. And yeah, if you see squigglies on here, I have to take notes because my ADD. So I might write, little notes and highlight things that I think are important. So let's see. Oh, and I do remember some of the original OG Boots on the Ground people had filed their own petition about these the buffer zone, and of course the court denied it. Oh, shocker. Anyways, so then let's see here. And some other judge said it, or let's see, said it didn't violate the petitioner's First Amendment rights. Did they even know what the our First Amendment rights are? We'll be going over that. Okay. So, and then here's the discussion, and the Commonwealth put some pictures showing where people were in front of the courthouse last time and honk for justice. And so they were saying the factual circumstances and concerns that necessitated the creation of the buffer zone last time are no less present or compelling today. This case continues to garner significant public interest and media attention locally and nationally, and is the subject of commentary on various social media platforms. Well, instead of following this, how about asking yourself, why is it? Why is this public interest? Why is this media attention? Not all media, mainstream media. Yeah, I'm talking about you. But locally and nationally. And they forgot to put globally because there are people who are for free can read in Australia, Ireland. I think I heard even China. So, yeah, you should be asking yourself, why are you drawing all this attention? Not, let's put a buffer zone out. Okay. The proceedings are still attended by groups of individuals demonstrating in front of the courthouse. Oh my. Man, they look like they were mean too. Um, Displaying references to materials that may or may not be introduced into evidence at retrial. Oh, like the feds hired ARCA, or the feds hired ARCA? Yeah. Or the feds hired ARCA, something like that. Um, and airing their opinions as to the trial judge, prosecutors, witnesses, and the guilt or innocence of the defendant on their clothing or on signage. Shown below, for example, are photographs of demonstrators who appeared. Um, Despite the inclement weather at the hearing on February 6, 2025. Well, weather shouldn't matter. If there's a cause that you feel strongly about, I mean, it's about our rights. This is what, the Constitution was written to keep the government in check and to protect the citizens because they didn't want to deal with that crap like they did over in England. Thank God. And when, during the Revolutionary War, do you think they were like, oh, well, it's cold weather, it's raining today, we're not going to go fight for our freedom? No. So that's just, I mean, is it the same? Not exactly, but the feeling is still there, something strong that you feel strongly about, and that is not right. Um, all right. So blah blah blah. Because I'm not going to read all this. Oh, there was even an affidavit by the Massachusetts State Police Sergeant Michael Hardman. Most of the time, he came off as a jerk, and I may go over his affidavit. Let's see here. Okay, and then this is where they were asking to expand the buffer zone onto the west side, and they also included the a little map of where they wanted to add that. And again, I'm not going to read all this because I don't feel like it. Had it been this morning, I might would have, but it's not. Okay, so for the reasons, so this is what the reasons that the Commonwealth had requested the court allow this motion and issue an order with the following terms. The court hereby establishes a buffer zone around the courthouse complex during the retrial of this case. Okay, we already went off the rest of it. No individual be permitted to wear or exhibit any buttons, photographs, clothing, or insignia relating to the case pending against the defendant or or relating to any trial participant in the courthouse during the retrial. Law enforcement officers who are testifying or the members of the audience are also prohibited from wearing their department issued uniforms, which I thought was weird. I see where like a lot of police officers, if something has happened to another police officer and they're not like they're not testifying, but they stop by, they wear their uniform. So I thought that was pretty shitty too. But anyway, so they couldn't wear their uniforms. And a violation of any provision of this order may constitute contempt of court. Court officers may eject or exclude entry to any person believed to have violated the provision against wearing or exhibiting certain clothing or items in the courthouse. Any person believed to have violated the buffer zone provision of this order and who has refused a prior verbal request by law enforcement personnel to comply with that provision may be subject to arrest for wearing a t-shirt. Come on. Y'all. for wearing a t-shirt. You could be arrested wearing a t-shirt. Okay. So, anyways, you could be arrested for wearing a t-shirt. Okay. Let's see here. I lost my place because this is so ridiculous. Any person believed to violate. Okay, I read that part, didn't I? Yeah. Law enforcement personnel may use reasonable physical force where necessary to compel such person's compliance with that provision. Okay. And then Hanky Spanky and, oh God, let me just, Lally Lunchbox or whatever he was called, and Laura the Snake McLaughlin. Yeah, I said that. Signed off on it, whatever. Okay. I need to find that video. Okay. And so now we're going to look at Bev's response or order. You know, it didn't take her probably 2 seconds. I can't remember, but a lot of these, it didn't take her 2 seconds to sign off on it. Okay. So, memorandum of decision and order on Commonwealth's motion for a buffer zone and order prohibiting signs of or clothing in favor or either party or law enforcement. Okay, why am I going over these documents? The case is over with. Why am I going over these documents? I'll tell you why I'm going over these documents. Because most of this case is word of mouth or through YouTube content creators. And people are not going to believe this is happening. And I back up my facts, and I just had to show that there are people that are writing legal documents and filing in them, which doesn't it cost the taxpayers filing? But anyways, whatever. They could be doing something else, but instead they're writing motions about what people can and cannot wear. This is 2025, the 21st century. We have phones that are cameras, radios, computers, all in one. But yet we can't wear certain clothes in front of a courthouse. Okay. Prior to the defendant's first trial on April 4th, 2024, this court issued an order establishing a buffer zone around the Norfolk Superior Courthouse. Yeah. We know. Blah, blah, blah. And then she backs it up with case law. So, to ensure the defendant's right to a fair trial, the court may restrict protected speech so long as the restrictions do not burden substantially more speech than is necessary to further the government's legitimate interests. Stop right there. Okay. What did I say about our Constitution? The Constitution was written to protect us, the citizens, and to keep our government in check. So, okay, here's some, no, the government's legitimate concerns, nope, no. So then she backs it up with case law, Ward versus Rock against racism. For the same reasons that compelled the court to establish the buffer zone for the first trial, it is necessary to establish a buffer zone for the second trial to ensure the defendant's right to a fair trial. What a hypocrite. If you saw the pre-trial motion hearings, and both trials, you will know that Beverly Cannoni did not give a shit that Karen Reed got a fair trial. She didn't. I'd say that under oath. It's the truth. She didn't care. But yet she's going to make sure. And that's the way she would do, is like she would twist things like this so that it really wasn't fair to like Karen Reed's, family, friends, and supporters. But yet she's making sure that Karen's going to get a fair trial. Okay, if you say so. The case continues to garner significant public interest. I wonder why, Bev. Gone down to the Cape? I don't know. There was that going around. If you saw on TikTok or Twitter about her going to, now I don't know if that was her. Somebody said it was that other lady that looks like her that's anti Karen Reed, but I don't know. But whoever it was said it wasn't her, that she was Bev's sister. So, yeah. But, anyways, okay. When the matter is in court, individuals line the sidewalks outside the courthouse, loudly chanting and voicing their opinions about witnesses, attorneys, and the strength of the Commonwealth's case. You know why? Because the Commonwealth didn't have a case. If I hurt your ears, I'm so sorry, but that's how I do sometimes. Um, they didn't have a case. And now, one thing I will agree with this was when you watch the first trial and Karen and her team are trying to get in the courthouse, I mean, they do have to be there by a certain time. And it was difficult. Press had their microphones stuck in their faces. And so it was very difficult. Plus, it was, a little claustrophobic, I'm sure, for Karen and her team, and they're trying to get into work. So that part I could see. Um, the loudly chanting, who cares as long as it's not going on during court? Like, if they're out there, I don't see a problem with it. But who am I? And I'm sure this is how they've always done it in Massachusetts. I don't give a shit. It's not right. Okay. Y'all, this is why I have a hard time reading these. I get mad, I get off track. Okay, so in other words, she explains why it might, it might not be fair to Karen, like tainting the jury, blah, blah, a bunch of bull crap. And then she talks about how she's going to allow the extension through Bullard Street, Ames Street, and all that I went over previously. So, okay. So it is therefore ordered that no individual may demonstrate in any manner, including carrying signs or placards, within 200 feet of the courthouse complex during trial of this case, unless otherwise ordered by this court. This complex includes the Norfolk Superior Courthouse building and the parking area behind the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds building. Remember, that was the potty area. And where, like, if you didn't get a park on High Street, guess where you had to go park? Behind the Registry of Deeds. So if you were getting ready to leave, you had to put on all your stuff so you could go to your car. It was ridiculous. Okay. La, 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 la. Okay. It is further ordered that no individuals would be permitted to wear any buttons, photographs, clothing, or insignia relating to the case pending against the defendant or relating to any trial participant in the courthouse during the trial. Law enforcement officers who are testifying, blah, blah, blah. Okay, they can't wear the uniforms, blah, blah. Okay, Beverly Cannoni is a hag. Okay, and I put boo on there. Okay, so that was signed March 25th. All right, let me get out of this. I really want to find my video. Okay. This makes me so mad. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it. Give me just a second. Might help if I use the right thing. Okay, I'm finding my other stuff now. I'm so sorry, y'all. Okay. Why do you keep showing the wrong one? I promise y'all. Well, I'm not going to promise because sometimes this is just the way it goes. So bear with me. Jeez Louise. I think my blood pressure's up. Okay. Keep in mind, I am a one woman show. Mhm. Okay. I keep wanting to sing that Thunderstruck by AC/DC. Okay. All right. I think I've got
These beautiful things that
yeah, sorry. Okay. Let's see if there's I can't. Okay. So yeah, that didn't really show to show you. Hmm. I don't know what's going on. I'm just here trying to get things to work. Okay. Needless to say, there wasn't much of what we were doing. We were sitting around. It was kind of like tailgating. I thought that was real cute when the McAlberts were on ABC after the verdict and how they were saying whatever they were saying because I don't really care what they were saying because they lie and they've been caught lying on the stand. But anyways, how uh, O'Brien Albert was like, they were out there like they were hanging out for a ball game or whatever he said. And I'm like, dude, I have said that 50 times. It is like tailgating. And it really was because what we did was we sat around and we talked and Boston Brandy and her husband, they had their vehicle and they had a TV pulled up next to it, which was awesome. And so we would sit there and we were talking. And it was the day that Jim McCabe, I think it was her last day. It was May the 2nd. So it was the last day of her testifying. And we were just sitting around and in the video, somebody was talking about her teeth, which I thought was great. Thinking about how she must have had her teeth worked on or whatever. God, this makes me so mad. Okay, this is good. Okay, we were just sitting around all of us that morning. All right. But anyways, so we just sat around and watched. I'll find that other movie after it's done and over with. Okay, so we were sitting around doing nothing, talking, getting to know each other. It was a fantastic thing I've never experienced, and it just put my faith in humanity again because it's been gone for a long time. But then when I got ready for my trip, I was so worried about that whole buffer zone thing. You know, I'm not from there. What am I, which I did talk to some locals before I came down to make sure I had all the right information and what the cans and can't do's and all this stuff. But I really was worried about me being from out of state and not knowing the laws there, which is really important. And that if you're going to go somewhere you hadn't been, you might want to check out some of their laws. Like some places, they require you to have both a tag on the front and the back of your car. We don't in Alabama, but in Washington, where Kohlberger, they do. But anyways, so there was one gentleman, it was actually caught on his live stream. His name was, or is, Bao Nguyen. I don't know if he still has a YouTube channel or not. But now I'm going to say, I don't know him. But I'm going to give him the shadow of a doubt that he really didn't know. Or maybe he knew there was, but didn't know the specifics about the buffer zone. So there's some parts of this. I don't do trigger warning stuff, people. But what I will tell you, if it might it was tense. And it kind of was scary. And the scarier part of it is Hardman. And we'll talk about that after you watch this video. Okay, so he's walking. And he's
Morning, Mike. How are you?
How you doing? Get back.
Get back this way?
Get back. Get across the street.
Over here?
Over here.
Oh, what's going on?
Go.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Can you tell me what's going on?
You cross the street, you're getting locked up.
Do you know what? Can you tell?
You gotta keep moving. Back behind the buffer zone, okay?
Can you tell me what's going on?
Hey, trooper, deal with them.
Hey, can you tell me what's going on?
Okay, so Hardman already told him, because he walked up to him and said, "Hey, Hardman," which I don't understand Hardman. And again, I'll talk about him shortly. But so apparently he's like the head trooper down there. Lord knows why. But anyway, so he said, "Hey, trooper, go talk to him." So you'll see this nice Massachusetts State police officer come up. And there's also, oh my gosh, y'all. Okay, so while we were there, a handful of people in the first bits of the, in the beginning of the trial too. Okay, you had groups of Mass State Police. You had I guess it was their division that rides bicycles. So it was like a bicycle gang rolling around and they'd give you looks. And then the Dedham police. And the Dedham police were very nice, or at least to me. But I just kept my head down when I passed the state troopers, which I'm ashamed of. I should have held my head up high and took my jacket off. Yeah. Then everybody been having to bail me out.
I'll comply with you. I just don't know what's going on. I just got here.
We got a hot case going on.
Yeah.
We got the defense and the prosecution coming, right?
Okay, so you say Bao is saying, okay, I don't know what's going on. So I'm thinking he does know about the buffer zone. He just doesn't know the particular. And as a public servant who's supposed to enforce this guy is doing the correct thing by communicating with him. Communication is key, folks. Communication. And you can really tell he's very communicative, if that's even a word. But because he uses his hands a lot. So that is someone like me. I over communicate. So this is what this guy's doing. I remember seeing him. He was nice, but he would not look you in the eye. And I don't think it was because he thought he was better than us. So, but he was nice, and you'll see he was nice in this.
So time, place, restrict. We can restrict the area,
Yeah.
right?
I just got here. I don't know what's
Because
going on.
we're court order, we
You
are
have another
restricting the
cell phone?
order.
Huh?
You have another cell phone?
I
You got the Q.
Oh my gosh. See here we go. There's the okay, so this one with that black and green or yellow jacket, that's part of the bicycle gang is what I call them. But they're they are state because it says it on his jacket. So yeah. So they had the troopers in their regular gear walking. Then they had the bicycle gang. I think there was about 4 of them. One of them was kind of smart to me. Because when I would pass people, and I guess it's just an Alabama thing, I don't know. I would pass and I would try to make eye contact with people and say good morning, hi there, something to that effect. I even saw somebody that either they were an attorney or paralegal or something, and their stuff was kind of spilled out, and I offered to help them. I wanted them to know that we were not bad people and that people on the internet were making shit up because they were bored. They're bored housewives and bored men that live in basements and attics and have nothing better to do. So I wanted them to know, and I don't know. One of them, I can't remember what he said because it was meaningless. So, but anyways, he was kind of smart ass, but whatever.
QR code.
man,
right
I do have another cell phone. I just don't want to scan anything. Can you tell me what's going on? I'll comply to whatever you need me to comply
Yeah,
with.
so we just have a buffer zone, and because of the case and
Yeah.
because of how well known it is, right? So we got a buffer zone, so we can
Yeah.
have a fair and impartial trial, right? So we have signs, right? There's going to be a sign right on that street, right? See where it says Old Fellows Hall?
See, look how far. I mean, it's like way down. You can't even see that sign, or I can't. But way down there, you can hang out.
Completely missed it, but I'll go read it.
Old Fellows Hall, like right there is where the buffer zone starts, okay? So you got to move it. So you just got to move
He's
it
just
along,
explaining
okay?
it to me.
But you're not. But you're not talking, so you can.
Oh
move
my
it.
gosh. Okay, so here's the part where I feel like it's intense. It's a little scary. Okay, so here's another one that's walked up. And so I don't know who's with Val, but apparently she's a little argumentative with this trooper over here. And so here we go. It's kind of getting a little amped up, just a little, because we got the great trooper over here who's trying to keep everybody calm and let me explain to you, and then you can be on your way. But no, look over here across the street. You're gonna see Hardman coming like a dang linebacker. I mean, it's ridiculous. I would have sued his ass.
Man, I just got here, man. I just got into town.
Okay,
I'll
here
keep
comes
it moving.
Hardman.
Yeah, can you tell me what's going on? Yeah.
So you got a buffer zone, right? So that's it.
What was that?
QR code.
I don't.
Look at that.
Are you kidding me right now?
Let's back that up just a little bit. Okay, so also, and I don't care if it's a supervisor or what, that was like rude to his coworker who's standing there, as you see, trying to explain what's going on to about the buffer zone. Still, he's remaining calm. He's trying to keep things under control because guess what? That's their job. And instead,
What was that?
this.
Code.
I don't.
That.
God, are you kidding me right now?
He's saying lock him up. I mean, when I saw that, I was like, wow. And that was one of the things that it told me I got to get down there. I've got to get down to Dedham because that's not right. That is not right. All he was doing was walking down the sidewalk. Yeah, he was streaming. Who cares? Who's not streaming nowadays? You got everybody streaming. You got people's dogs that are being streamed. I mean, everybody's doing it, but he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't like trying to film anybody. So there's that. And I just, something was telling me, get down there. You've got to help them. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm going to go down there and, stand there and support the boots on the ground and just kind of stand there. And yeah, anybody I run into, I'll tell them I'm from Alabama. And then that was my main thing. I didn't know anybody, but those people, boots on the ground, they made sure I was safe, that I stayed in touch because I was there 5 days. And I mean, best people I've ever met. And I don't regret going one bit. In fact, I'm going back up there in October to celebrate with them. And yeah, so, but yeah, that was a little ridiculous. And so Bao was arrested. Okay, so let me skip down to talk about some other things. So, um, I'm just so not with it today. I mean, I hate lives. I hate lives. Um, but it was great because going down there, I met people that I had seen speaking at the Canton town meetings and the police audit. And so it was like these people were celebrities to me. Brenda Sweeney, Dennis Sweeney. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh. I mean, that's how much I looked up to him. I was hoping to meet Rita, but she wasn't there when I was there. But it was just like these are heroes. These people are not scared to let people know that there's things wrong going on down there. And yeah, I was kind of like a fangirl. And I bet they were going, who is this girl? So excited to see us. But no, they were so nice and kind. And I really, really had a good time, even though it was for a murder trial. And I never thought I would just hop on a plane and go, but I did. And again, like I said, I don't regret it. And if you ever feel, you know, some kind of, I don't know if you'd call it a calling or your intuition, do it. Because even though I thought, okay, I'll just be supporting them, hanging out with them, that's not what my purpose wound up being. It wound up that when I would go to a restaurant, of course, I stuck out like a sore thumb with this accent. And the first night I was there, and I won't say the name of the restaurant nor the name of my waiter, but we were talking, and it was so funny because, I said something, and whatever, something, I was like, shit. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Because here in the South, like, we're not loud. We try to have manners. And, but up there in Massachusetts, they're loud. And he was like, it's all right. You can say that real loud. And I was like, okay. But anyway, so we were talking, and of course, it was like, what brings you here? And so I told him it was the Karen Reed trial, and his eyes got so big, and he said, really? And I said, yeah. And he knew I was there by myself, and I told him why. And he said, I'm from Canton. And I was like, what? And again, I'm not going to reveal the restaurant, but I was in a town nearby, and that's all I'm going to say about it. But anyway, so he told me some stuff about some people that lived over there in that area and how it was, the rumor mill and everything was crazy. But yeah, he was there, and he thanked me. He thanked me for coming because he didn't realize that the story had gotten so far down to Alabama. I guess they just thought it was just something, an everyday affair there in Norfolk County. And I said, no, it was kind of like they were in this bubble and had no access to the outside world, especially if you're working all the time. I mean, you don't have time to be checking your phone and watching YouTube all day and see what's going on, because that's where I get my news from Twitter and YouTube. But anyways, but he thanked me, and I let him know that even other countries are watching this, and he was floored. But what was so strange was when he said he thanked me and he said he believed that Karen was innocent. That part, when we talked about that, he was very, very quiet, almost a whisper. And that's a shame that these loud and expressive folks, tone down because of a murder trial, because of the corruption going on there, and they're afraid to talk about it. They're afraid that somebody might hear them talk about it. And we're past those days. That was what, in the 50s or 40s? Whatever. Times are changing. They've been changing and will continue to change. But until people start voting out these ridiculous people that had their seats on the council for 30 something years, nothing's going to change. But every Uber person, and it wouldn't be like, hey, let me tell you about this trial. And let me tell you, it wasn't like that. What I would do is if I was in Uber or actually at the hotel I stayed at, I told the guy that was at the restaurant at where I was staying, I never once said, hey, I'm here for this trial. It was always, hey, what brings you here? Why are you here? And then that's when I would let them know. And so I was able to spread the word to a lot of people. And even when I left, like I had a layover in Nashville, I still shared, again, why were you in Boston? And, those those things. So it was neat. So I felt like, yeah, I was there because I wanted to support Karen, but I also wanted to support the boots on the ground. I wanted to support Canton, and I wanted to support Norfolk County. And I felt like I did in my way. And that is something I'm proud of. And I was very proud to be part of that. So when we're talking about your rights, you'll see people and they'll be arrested and they're like, I've got rights. Every time I see that on TV, I'll be like, okay, well, what are they? Because I'm sarcastic that way. It's just my nature. But anyways, so what are your rights? Well, the Constitution was written, and then there were 10 amendments to the Constitution, and they're also known as the Bill of Rights. And so we're talking like from the right to remain silent to freedom of the press. Like I said earlier, they're not just words. They're not just thoughts. I mean, they're very powerful, or can be. But here's the thing. If you don't know them, you can't use them, or you don't know how to use them to benefit you. I had all this other, I had this whole thing, like nothing goes to plan. But some of it I just want to sit here and talk. But the one thing, let's talk about the First Amendment, because that's what this whole thing's about. Now I've stretched this out. I don't even know how long we've been going so far. But anyways, the First Amendment to the Constitution states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Okay, that's a lot of stuff in just that one amendment. Just in the First Amendment. You've got free exercise of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the right to protest peaceably. and to petition the government for any grievances against that. So now I want to talk about one of the citizens and that dealt with this, and his name is Jason Grant. Let me pull up his documents because all my stuff erased and I had to start over. And yes, I scribbled all over it. Okay. So, and I appreciate Jason sharing this with me so I could share with everybody. So Jason, on April 1st, the same day that Karen's trial, the jurors were going to be chosen because, Bev had to make sure that trial started right on April 1st. I don't know. I think it was just she was trying to be, I don't know. I can say she was trying to be funny or whatever. April Fools. But anyways, well, I guess we know who the fool is now. Anyways, so look at this. I had never heard of this document, and it is called a verified complaint. And so Jason Grant, Allison Taggart, Lisa Peterson, and Samantha Lyons, they're citizens, and they filed a verified complaint against Beverly Cannoni, the judge, Jeffrey Noble, who is the superintendent of the Massachusetts State Police, Michael, and I cannot pronounce that last name, but he is the chief of the police department in the town of Dedham, and Michael Meatball Morrissey as the district attorney. So what a verified complaint is a you file it, and that way you have to get a verified answer from the defendants. It's not like you just filed it and then later on, down the road, well, I filed this and they never responded, so whatever. Or they could say, well, I didn't know they filed something. I didn't receive anything. So this is a verified complaint. And on my notes, like I said, complaint filed by plaintiff or through attorney considered verified due to affidavit attached and notarized. You file it to receive a verified answer from defendants. So, all right. So under verified complaint, the Karen Read trial has drawn significant public attention. Plaintiffs are members of the public, wish to publicly express themselves near, but not on the grounds of the courthouse where the second Karen Read trial is taking place. This primary concern is that they wish to criticize Judge Cannoni, which I'm all for. They have been doing so since November 2024 because she's the worst. It doesn't say that. That's my 2 cents. Okay. They have been doing so peacefully. They have been doing so while Judge Cannoni presides over cases in the Dedham courthouse, and neither the Sixth Amendment nor the First Amendment have felt the slightest shake. However, Judge Cannoni has found her pretext to shut down protests against her, an ignoble request from the Commonwealth that an ill-defined buffer zone be declared on the streets, public walkways, public library, and private properties surrounding the Dedham courthouse. Judge Cannoni joyfully entered the order ex parte, which ex parte means she did this order and didn't really it's a proceeding that's brought on by one party. See, I've got my notes. I write on here because that's how I taught reading when I was teacher. And you don't have to give notice to the other side. So in other words, she did this order, but she didn't have to notify everybody in Norfolk County. That's how come Bow didn't know what was going on. And the next thing you know, his ass got knocked. Well, I don't know if he got knocked down, but his phone was knocked out of his hand and he got arrested. And he didn't know what was going on. Allegedly. Okay, so ex parte and joining plaintiffs and everyone else who are not subject to her jurisdiction from speaking on private property and on traditional public fora. It is a lawless, ultra, I don't know if that's virus, which means beyond the legal power or authority of the person performing the action, that violates the constitutional guarantees of free speech and due process. Canoni has issued this order primarily to quash criticism directed at her as the only protests that have been documented have been the plaintiffs in this case who have quietly held signs criticizing Canoni. To remedy this constitutional wrong, the plaintiffs Jason Grant, Allison Taggart, Lisa Peterson, and Samantha Lyons bring the civil action against defendants trial court of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Beverly Canoni, Jeffrey Noble, Michael, I can't pronounce his last name, and Michael Morrissey. Let's see, what have I got? See, being treated fairly within the rules of the legal system is due process. And that is something that is part of our rights as well. Being treated fairly within the rules of the legal system. Okay. So then it goes in to say like the parties. So the parties, the plaintiffs. And it's got Jason, Allison, Samantha, and Lisa. And then we're going to go to the next page. Again, it talks about the defendants, the jurisdiction and venue. This court has subject matter jurisdiction over this civil action, as this is a civil action arising under code blah, 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 and the First and 14th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution. This court has personal jurisdiction over all defendants as they are all citizens or organs of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and the defendants committed the acts complained of within the said Commonwealth. Venue is proper in this court, pursuant whatever codes, as all defendants reside in this district and all events giving rise to the claim occurred in this district. So then they go about the factual background. And this factual background, I mean, they didn't say, well, the other day they were standing there. No, they go all the way back to the night that Officer John O'Keefe died. And so then they break it down and they talked about the first case and about the original 500 foot, I mean, they really went way back and detailed, and I love it because I believe in, I mean, some people say less is more, but when you're filing a motion or this verified complaint, as many details and as much information as possible, factual, anything to back it. If you say a sentence, back it up, and this with case law or affidavits or whatever exhibits you got, but back it up. And it's cover your ass is basically, what they're doing, and to memorialize these documents so that in the future people can learn from them. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to kind of skim. Okay, so right here, I don't think I can make that bigger, but here is Jason. I think I've got another picture, and he's holding a sign, and it says Judge Bev is. What's that say? Oh, it says Judge Bev is conflicted, and then Bev's court is a clown show, and yeah, they kind of decorated it up. But you know what? It's true. It was a clown show. It was ridiculous, and it was very obvious that she was biased to the Commonwealth and helping them out. Okay, so again, detailed. I thought it was excellent, but I'm not going to go through. Again, I'm not going to read. It goes over the cause of action, count 1, violation. Okay, so these are what they're saying specifically that Bev and the crew did. Violation of the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. Um, we talked about what that was. Okay. Violations of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Let's see here. And that one is the one that is about due process of law. Um, let's see. And so they just went ahead, they listed all that, and they were like, demand trial by jury. Because, I mean, they're not playing. And I loved it. I was here for it. I mean, I don't know if this is what a usual form says, but they were like, skip all this back and forth bullcrap. We want a trial by jury. And so then there's the prayer for relief. So they just wanted a declaration that the second prior restraint order is unconstitutional, and the restraint order being I think the buffer zone, is unconstitutional under the First and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution. A declaration that enforcing the second prior restraint order is unconstitutional under the First and 14th Amendments of the Constitution. Okay, C, a preliminary and permanent injunction enjoining each defendant from interfering with plaintiff's right to lawfully engage in constitutionally protected expression and activity within Dedham, Massachusetts. D, to award plaintiff their reasonable attorney's fees, costs, expenses pursuant whatever code and any other applicable law. To award such other relief as this honorable court may deem just and proper. And so the head attorney was Mark Randazza. Wow. I mean, he is like a beast. He didn't take any shit. And I mean, I follow him on Twitter, and I'm telling you, I mean, he scares me, but in a good way. I mean, he's a defense attorney, and he's like a bulldog. And then you had Mark Trammell, who is pro hoc vice forthcoming. So in other words, what that means is he does not practice, or he's from another state. He's an attorney from another state. And so he's applying for pro hoc vice forthcoming. So it was in the process. So anytime you see somebody that says pro hoc vice, like Alan Jackson was pro hoc vice because he's in California, but he came to Massachusetts and applied for pro hoc vice and got it. And I'm sure Bev hated that, but tough shit for her. Okay, let's see here. Oh, and so Mark Trammell, he was he works with the Center for American Liberty, which I thought was cool, and that's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And then Mark Randazza has his own group, Randazza Legal Group, and it's in oh shoot, I forgot to practice this word. Massachusetts, you and y'all cities, is it Gloucester? Glucast, whatever. Gloucester, Massachusetts. Okay, so that is their first thing that they did, and of course, Bev and her group, they responded, and I'm not going to go in because it was like a back and forth, and so let's see here. I know I've got some other stuff I wanted to show you about Jason, because, I mean, that was really right before the trial started. I mean, I say before the trial started because it was jury. They were picking jury. But, yeah, I have to give him kudos. And that's why I was so appreciative that he, allowed me to share his story. Okay. Bear with me. Talk amongst yourselves. God, This just makes me so mad because I had everything just planned. It was going to be so exciting and thrilling, and it was going to be like the best live show ever. I'm lying. I'm still getting my feet wet. Oh, there's some of my stuff. Okay. So, needless to say, Bev and them lost. Wah, wah, wah. And so she, um, I mean, it even went to a higher court and they were like, okay, here's our choices. Either we can fix it or you can. And Bev was going to fix it because it wouldn't look good on her, I wouldn't say resume, but on her history as being overturned by higher court. So she went and she um, adjusted it. And I'm going to read to you that. Can't. I mean, I can, but oh my God. Okay. All right. So here's the supplemental order regarding the buffer zone. So this was her response for, being a turd, but it wasn't much help. Okay. Make sure this is the right one. Yeah. Okay. So the court is supplemental order regarding the buffer zone. Okay, the court is in receipt of the decision of the United States Court of Appeals for the First Circuit in Grant versus Trial Court of Commonwealth of Massachusetts, blah, 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 to simplify any potential First Amendment issues related to the buffer zone restrictions implemented by prior orders. This court, guided by the Court of Appeals, because they had to go to the Court of Appeals because Bev was just sitting on that other motion. I mean, it was like, okay, are you going to do something or what? And she just, I guess, thought we were just going to do the trial and she wasn't going to get to that order and address it. And so they called her out on it and told her she had like 24 or 48 hours. And I loved every minute of it. But anyways, so, and when I say they, I'm talking about Mark Randazza. Put it some kind of order that said you had 24 to 48. I don't know. It was the best shit I have read. Okay. So let's see here. Blah, blah, blah. To simplify any potential First Amendment issues related to the buffer zone restrictions implemented by prior orders, this court, guided by the Court of Appeals, suggests set out on page 12 of the decision issues the following supplemental order regarding the buffer zone. First, for all the reasons cited in support of prior orders and based upon the parameters of the dispute as narrowed and described in the decision, all orders of this court remain in place insofar as they apply to the courthouse property. Because you know why? Bev doesn't have jurisdiction over on the streets over what was it, Ames Street and all the streets that are not on the courthouse complex. She doesn't have the power to say who can do what on those. Even though I don't know how she still got away with this buffer zone, but it's the truth. Her power is in that courthouse. Let's see here. Okay. First, for all the reasons cited in support of prior orders and based upon the parameters of the dispute as narrowed and described in the decision, all orders of this court remain in place insofar as they apply to the courthouse property. Second, prior orders remain in place as applied to pathways, including public sidewalks and roads, through which and at which times trial participants enter and exit the courthouse. Third, noisy protests, including those using amplified sound, that would be a bullhorn, honking horns, or loud screaming and yelling that are intended to interfere with the administration of justice, because that's what she's all about. okay, or are intended to influence any judge, juror, witness, or court officer in the discharge of his or her duties are prohibited within the buffer zone. Fourth, the display of written or graphic materials that are intended to interfere with the administration of justice are intended to influence any judge, juror, witness, or court official in this discharge of their duties are prohibited within the buffer zone. Fifth, any person whose activity has been restricted by an officer enforcing this order may request review by a judge of the Superior Court, which request shall be heard as expeditiously as possible. Okay, so if you got a dispute outside with an officer, you're just going to walk in the courthouse and knock on some judge's, I don't know, courtroom, or if you know, can get to their chambers and say, hey, we got a problem? No, that, quiet, off-site demonstrations on public property in areas and at times that do not interfere with trial participants' entrance into or exit from the courthouse, and that do not interfere with the orderly administration of justice, and that are not intended to influence any trial participants in the discharge of their duties are specifically outside the scope of the buffer zone restrictions. So ordered. Beverly J. Canoni. Date May 15th, 2025. That's over a month since they first filed that verified complaint. And here's what's also hilarious about her is when she does this kind of order, these kind of orders, like, and I'm going to call us. Yeah, Danny, I didn't notice too many either, but yeah, she wasn't. Yeah, I didn't notice too many exes. She was too concerned with the administration of justice inside the courthouse. I agree. She didn't care, and this is what I'm talking about. When I say we, I mean I'm talking like everybody. Karen Reed and the whole thing. When she would do these motions against us, they were vague. They were so vague, like that. Like there were no particular streets listed, no whatever. So that left, I mean, that was like way too much gray area. And when there's gray area in particular things like this, it causes problems. And yeah. So that's how Beverly got away with a lot of stuff, is she would make it so vague and write all these, a lot of words and yeah, no explanations. Yeah, none whatsoever. She didn't care. She still doesn't. But yeah, she blew my, I mean, I never thought that a judge would behave like this. And this has been going on for who knows how long. Who knows how long? I'm sure a long time. So let's see here. There's a few more things I wanted to share with you on this. Oh, and here's another lovely thing that cracks me up about Beverly. And talking about justice and, and what's so crazy is Boston is like so historical and so important to our history. And if anybody should know justice, it should be Beverly Canoni, because, and she did a lot during the first trial. She quoted John Adams so many times during the first one, but she didn't quote him too much in the second. And I'm sure it's because she heard all this out in the internet land calling her out. But here you go.
John Adams said that we are a government of laws, not of men, and that the law must be deaf to the clamoring of the public. He meant that while public opinion about a given subject may ebb and flow, the law must be steady, reliable, and even-handed.
Yeah, she knows all about that. What a joke. What a joke. I mean, she should be ashamed of herself. But like I said, once you've been, doing all this for so long, it becomes what? Natural. So they're, whatever. They don't care. They do whatever they want to. Whatever they want to. And they have no qualms about it. And I'm talking about her. I'm talking about Michael Morrissey. And I just pray that Norfolk gets some changes and get some changes real soon. And I don't know. I've seen a little bit of change, and it'll get there. It's going to take some time. Rome wasn't built in a day, and so all right, hang tight just a second. Yeah, I wanted to show you some of the pictures of Jason. That I think is fantastic. It's American, and nothing wrong with it. Oh, yeah, you're right, Danny. She got that Person of the Year award. What a joke. I wanted to throw up. She is, mm-mm. If she's Person of the Year, I'm telling you, Time Magazine, somebody get a word to Time Magazine, and they need to put Karen Reed on there. They need to put her whole dream team on there, and they need to put Turtle Boy on there for Time People of the Year. And then People Magazine should slap them on there too, because Beverly Cannoni is not Person of the Year. And mm-mm. No, no, no. I totally forgot about that. Thanks, Danny, for reminding me about that. Yeah, she's disgusting. And I thought, like, I was watching, the Alan Jackson interview the other night, and I thought that maybe she was mad at them since they asked her to recuse herself before the first trial. But Alan Jackson said she didn't like him once he stepped foot, and I guess from that he's from California. But I mean, what does that matter where he's from? I mean, was it because I think it was probably because he was famous, but um yeah. All right, here's a picture of um Jason, and I love it. I guess I can't let's see if I can make that bigger. I guess I can't. But anyways, I love it. In this picture, he's got the American flag, and he's got 2 Corinthians 3:17. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Yes, yes, and yes. And then I've got, I think, another picture. Let's see here. Jason, I've got several that he allowed me to use. And again, I appreciate it because people can talk all day and tell you stuff, but without having some kind of visuals, videos, documents, pictures, people people will be going, yeah, right, that didn't happen. Okay. Now here's one. It totally cracks me up. It's the one I was telling you earlier. And I love it. It says jokers to the right of you, jokers to the left. There you are stuck in the middle with Bev. Yes. And there she is dressed like a clown because her courtroom is a clown show. And then conflicted, Judge Bev is I think it was conflicted. And there's a picture of her and Morrissey. Yeah, that was so horrible that they did that. I'm being sarcastic. Uh, it'd be different if, I don't know, they doxed him or something. Let's see what Danny says. His response was fire. I don't care how you do it in the CW. I care what the Constitution says that governs all states. Yes, I got chills when he said that because, yeah, I totally agree. That whole, we don't do that here in, Massachusetts. Okay, well, what the Constitution says, which actually overrules your ass, uh, it was, I can't wait to see some changes going on there. Okay, let's see here. And I just wanted to show you a couple more because these people, I can't brag on the boots on the ground enough um, of all the stuff that they did. And like I said, seeing these people do this, they inspired me to take a flight all the way down there. All right, and see, here's a group right here, and there's Jason Grant right there in the middle. And then I wanted to show a picture of Jason with Randazza. And the other gentleman, I forgot his name. Yeah. So here's a picture, and they're standing in front of the Norfolk County Superior Court. I love it. Jason, if you watch this, you need to frame this one. It's such a fantastic picture. So there's Jason, and then in the middle is Mark Randazza, and then the gentleman, I can't remember his name, so rewind or back up to where I talked about who they were. But anyways, so that was fantastic, and good for y'all. Good for y'all. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. So, gosh, I didn't even realize I've been over an hour probably babbling on. But I actually was going to talk about Erica Walsh's case, but I think I'm going to do a second video for it because it takes time to really talk about these cases and go over, I didn't even halfway touch on some of the stuff that Jason and his attorneys and the other plaintiffs went through, waiting for Bev to correct it. But anyway, so I think I'll probably do a second live show on about Erica. I'll probably try to do it, let's see, not tomorrow, maybe Tuesday. So, and I want to include, there was some other people that dealt with this too. So I want to be sure and touch on everybody that was affected, legally. But, anyways, I'm glad the trial is over. I'm glad Karen Reed is free. I'm glad I learned about my rights as a citizen of the United States. Gosh, I learned so much. And I'm trying to pay it forward by doing videos like this, sharing what I've learned online through social media, word of mouth. And I hope you all get something out of this as much as I did. And I'll continue to talk about it. This is far from being over. And like I said, it's not just happening in Massachusetts, it's happening everywhere. Know your rights. I don't care if you have to write them on a card and stick them in your billfold, your wallet, your car. Know your rights. Talk to an attorney. There's nothing wrong with that. And everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty. So, anyways, I'm glad I don't have to deal with the buffer zone. And I'm glad that things worked out as far as, and I want to make sure because I showed that picture of Bao being arrested. I did want to show a really good picture of Hardman because I want to be fair. And after it came out that the police could not just, attack people, take it into their own hands. Um, Dennis Sweeney got up there and he and Hardman made a pact. And in other words, you do what you're supposed to do, we do what we're supposed to do, we won't have any problems. And so at the end of the trial, they took this picture, and I thought it was fantastic, and I had to share. And here you've got Hardman in the middle with his thumbs up. You've got Mr. Dennis Sweeney, and there's Tim. I think that's Laura, and I'm not sure who that is by Mr. Sweeney. But anyways, so I wanted to show that things can work out. Communicate. If you have a question, ask. And this is just general advice. I mean, it's just general advice. But again, don't take your Constitution for granted. I hope you had a good 4th. It meant totally different for me this time. And I was glad to be a part of supporting Karen Reed, our First Amendment rights, and the people of Canton and Norfolk. And again, this isn't over. So, but until next time, stay safe. Oh, let me stop. Okay, Danny, nice to meet you too. And hope you had an awesome 4th. But like I said, until next time, please stay safe, be aware of your surroundings, and please do the right thing. Oh, and when I say do the right thing, don't do it the Devers right way. I mean, right thing. Do Heather Honey, do the right thing. Anyways, all right. See ya.